Adtyo forced herself to look away from the wreckage and through the window. Nothing. Oh, wait! If she'd been madly accelerating for a whole hour, the ship would be far behind where she came from. So that meant underneath. She moved painfully to one of the floor windows and stared. Nothing. Stars everywhere. Then she saw something else, something far worse. She was slowly rotating. The stars were moving by. The ship could be in any direction. Had she done it herself just now? Or had she been circling or spiraling all the time? Driven by panic, she now went from one window to another, but the SkaterJon, the little world she had grown up in, was nowhere to be seen. "Oh, Majesty, must I die here, far from everybody?" "No, not from everybody. You are here." She let that sink in a bit. Yes, the king himself was right here, with her. Always, but perhaps even more so now that she was all alone and in need. "Thank you, sire. But please, sire, help me find the ship." No more than 20 seconds later, an angel alighted invisibly on the crippled rocket. It was Erril, who often assisted St. Geoffrey Millings, the resurrected saint for the Zebedee sector, but this errand of honour he had been sent on by the king himself. He took in the situation at a glance and considered his options, in the meantime soothing the girl's spirit somewhat. She was open to it. He was impressed by her trust in the king. Coming to a decision, he jumped to the nearest star, picked up a few fair-sized meteorites, calculated his timing, let go of them at just the right point in space and time in front of the SkaterJon's meteorite protection shield, and jumped back to the lonely little battered craft to engage in some angel whispering. "Let's look once more through that window." Adtyo felt an urge to look at the nearest window again. But really, why should she? There was nothing, and she had sort of made up her mind to sit and recuperate a bit first. Looking is still the best thing to do. One can't be 100% certain that it's out of sight. That was true. She might as well. If she didn't look, she would even more certainly be stuck out here. She lifted her head painfully and studied the patterns of the stars that were drifting by. Suddenly, she saw a flash. It almost had to be at the ship. It could be sabotage again, but even so, that way was home. Now make sure to fix the place with respect to the stars. Oops, good she thought of that. Let's see. Oh, that little group of 3 stars was rather striking, and then about 2 fingers to the left from there. Now how to fix left here. With respect to that little bright cloud of young stars. Perhaps jot it down somehow? Her eye fell on a little box with vacuum-proof drawing implements. Yes, she would make a little drawing. Her head was so confused she might forget. She made the sketch with clumsy, painful fingers, but she felt sure this would work. "Thank you, Majesty, for pointing out the ship to me." Erril felt a flow of gratitude go out from the girl and up to his master, and was content. Now what? Control that rotation was the first thing, of course. Painstakingly and painfully, Adtyo did the rounds of all the manual controls for the various rocket engines. She found 3 that didn't respond even to the manual controls, but they didn't seem to be active. Maybe empty already? She found 2 that were indeed giving off a bit of a jet, and managed to shut them down. Visual check. No, she was still rotating a little bit. Probably the main propulsion jet was out of whack. Perhaps she could use some of the other engines to correct it? Or just the rotite? Slowly, feeling the pain of every movement, she got the system under control. She aimed it towards the point in the sky where the flash had been, and set the acceleration up to about 1g. Straight away she felt heavy again, and the pains increased in many places. Still, it was better than those 2g she had had at first. Now she had to calculate. She knew that very well. She'd been taught it at school, but Pelter's games had made it abundantly clear. Never think you can do space navigation by intuition. Okay, let's see. She had aimed the nose of the Leholth launcher at the ship now, but that didn't mean she was flying towards it. It was just a way of aiming your main engine the other way, so he could use it to slow down. For of course she was still moving away from the SkaterJon at a fantastic speed. She'd had a whole hour of acceleration at about 2G, so she had to be flying, 36 kilometers per second away from the ship. Which meant that, now that she was using the engine as brakes at 1G, it would take her 2 hours to even come to a standstill. 2 more hours and she would be back here, but then she would be hurtling towards the SkaterJon at the same speed as she was now moving away from it. So then she had to brake her speed again. Oh, she'd have to brake at 2G. Otherwise she would tear by the SkaterJon and disappear in the other direction. No, she didn't want to go up to 2G again. Her bruised body might not be able to handle it, and if she passed out again, everything would be lost. She could avoid the 2G slowdown, but then she'd have to start braking earlier, and that meant more calculations. She sighed, groped for the box with the pencils, and started to calculate. With double clumsy fingers. They were sore, and they were untrained. People rarely calculated on paper nowadays. It was a slow process, but she felt reasonably sure she was getting it right. Erril, who was looking over her shoulder, thought so too. They were hard hours. Pain everywhere. She did pass out again several times. Every time she woke up she feared she might have drifted out of course, but she hadn't. At least not worth mentioning. It seemed the rocket's rotite bank was stabilizing it. She tried looking, but there were no more flashes. She couldn't expect them either, really. Her calculations had shown she was already more than half a light second away from home, and would get to more than a whole light second before she would actually start moving back. More than the distance from the old Earth to its nearest celestial neighbour, Now what was the Earth's moon called again? Oh, duh! The moon, of course. But that was some distance. That flash had to have been absolutely enormous. Maybe the whole SkaterJon had exploded and she was the last one alive. No, she didn't want to think about that. As time went on, she noticed the periods of unconsciousness got gradually longer, and her strength while awake got less. Still, when the calculated number of hours had passed, and she should be as close to the SkaterJon as she could get, she was awake, and with her last remaining strength, she shut off the engine. Of course, the calculations had been very rough, and had not taken into account the SkaterJon's own acceleration, because she didn't know which way it was going. Delrin would have known. He was always studying the local stars, looking through the ponds, looking through the front window, studying the 2D and 3D maps. The tears came again as she thought of her family. She dragged herself from window to window, more and more slowly. But she couldn't give up. Home could be in any direction. Dad and Mum would be so worried. She had to hope and pray for another flash. But nothing came. She could not see her home ship. Then her eyes started failing. She started seeing double and couldn't focus. First the smaller stars became invisible to her, and gradually the whole starry sky became a blur, a dark grey vagueness. Now her last chance was gone. Majesty, I'm not afraid to come to you. My sins are covered by your blood. But I would have liked to live this life first. Please, sire, take care of the others. Help them stop that horrid non-A. And save the Halyodoora. The thoughts started drifting. What would it be like to meet King Jesus? It would be glorious. She'd seen videos of the magnificent throne room in Jerusalem, on the earth, far back behind. It was so beautiful. The resurrected saints going in and out, discussing affairs of state with the king. Angels materializing in mid-air, presenting themselves for orders and rushing out to obey them, turning invisible again as they went. The people of Israel and the visitors from many stars celebrating their king, bringing in beautiful gifts, singing, dancing. Adtyo loved singing for the king. Would they let her be part of it? Of course they would. Oh, but no, wait. She wasn't going to the Jerusalem throne room. she was going to the heavenly one. All the resurrected saints said that that was even way more beautiful, only there were no videos of it, so it was difficult to picture it. But they did sing, and she would be part of it. Oh, Majesty, would they know that very beautiful song? How did it go again? Something about... She drifted out of consciousness, and now her forces were spent. Her bruised and beaten body had no strength left to recuperate. Without help, she would not wake up any more. Erril could see that, but he refrained from further action. He just sat there and watched over the girl in his charge. Angel emotions are not like human emotions. Also, though they don't know the end from the beginning as their master does, they know a lot more than we do. Still, that doesn't mean their emotions are not strong. Erril was deeply moved, but he knew and respected the limits of his mandate. He sat and watched.